Hey, it is 501 week number 3. Welcome. You've made it so far. Pretty incredible. It's already week number 3. Hopefully, your school year is starting to get into kind of the groove of things. We are just actually starting our second week of school here at Hillbrook. We're playing this on a Friday, so we got their school t-shirt Friday, which is something I sometimes do. So whenever you see this shirt, you're like, Bill's recording this on a Friday afternoon. So this week, handful of things. Let's just jump right to the assignment, and then we'll talk about other things and how they connect. The goal is looking at summative assessment, and in general, when I think of assessment, I'm just like, not really like why I wake up in the morning. I'm just like, yeah, let's get some iced coffee, which is what I love, and then think about assessment. And yet, knowing where our students are helps us know what they know and what they don't know, which is kind of in some ways, a big part of teaching, right? And certainly not like the most glamorous part. You don't go to like a conference and a keynote and be like, I want to learn about assessment. Yeah, that's going to fill this 8,000 person keynote room. And yet, there's really powerful ways, as you're going to find out, for assessing students. So in this particular case, your assignment is to do a 10-question quiz using Google Forms. Google Forms will self-grade a quiz, which means once you set it up, once you have the idea of it, it can just be a very quick way to give students feedback very, very quickly. Super useful, and I was going to recommend doing it. You have to do it because you're in this course. So that is your assignment. There's details in the Google Doc that explains what it is. Week 3 might look a little bit light if you just look at the week 3 content page, but then when you actually click through on the Google Doc that is the assignment number 3 page, you'll see that there's, I think, 5 different links to resources, most of them being videos. And so, again, please don't wait till like Sunday afternoon to be like, cool, like, let's write out this 10-question quiz using Google Forms, because steps 1, 2, and 3 have 5 different links that you'll need to visit as part of going through the 7-step process of your summative assessment. So just a heads up on that. That connects actually really well to the Google Certified Educator Level 1 training. This week ties in really, really well with Unit 3 about getting a mostly paperless classroom using quizzes with Google Forms, which is exactly what you're doing, ways to use Drive, make class copies, the photocopier, that kind of stuff. The goal, if you're just kind of going week by week, is this week is Units 5 and 6 on that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please click on the link at the bottom of week 3 content that says click here and spend some time reviewing content in Units 5 and 6 for Google Educator Level 1 certification exam. You'll be doing that in week 8. More details will come on what that looks like in week 8, but you definitely do not want to wait until week 8 to start going through those resources. So part of the expectation with the time you're spending in this course is to go through those resources on the Google for Education Fundamentals training website. It's really well done. It even gives you approximate times of how long each unit will take. So I strongly recommend going through that. The other interesting thing you can get, a connection I'd like to make about getting feedback for students, an analogy I recently heard from one of the people that's doing amazing work in AI and helped actually start up OpenAI a number of years ago. Use the analogy of comparing this time in AI to like the original iPhone release. Do you remember that in the year iPhone 1? No, not 11. When was the original iPhone? 2007. So like, it's been a while. 16 years? Yeah, my math is right on that. I typed it in just to make sure. So in the last 16 years, the iPhone and smartphones in general have changed considerably. If you've not watched Steve Jobs' keynote, it's one of the greatest lessons in public speaking in leadership, in communication. There's lots and lots of videos about this keynote. The thing that struck me is that he talks about the three big parts, three new products they're going to release. A new iPod, which was a huge deal in 2007. I think he said he was going to share a new phone, and then a new like internet connection device is how he kept talking about it. Talking about these three different products, and the audience starts to giggle, and he's like, they're all in one. It's called the iPhone, and people are like, ah! And just having that, a device that you could browse the web, that you can make a phone call from, and you could listen to music from, was amazing. Like, amazing. If you recall, back in 2007, depending on your age, I remember having a phone in one pocket and my iPod in the other pocket, because this could play music and this could make calls. Like, my phone could only make calls. I was going to pay 10 cents per text. Talking with a friend would cost like $1. It's weird. And now, fast forward 16 years, I'm guessing the phone app is not the one you're most excited about on your phone, right? Like, when's the last time you actually used it, aside from like silencing a spam call? Not often for me. It's the apps actually that I am most excited about. The ones that make my phone super productive, that make me, my phone isn't productive, that make me more productive, that I'm at the point now where we're actually using ChatGPT. I built an app for our school. It's perpetually in beta because it has actually sensitive information about our traffic counts, but we have traffic counters, like sensors exiting our school. Those are relayed to a server room, and then we can run a report on a web page, which is not helpful during the day. If we go over our conditional use permit, like there's all kinds of fines. It's not the point of this video, but we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of thought on managing our school's traffic. So if you want an update, going to a website, running a report, not super helpful. So instead, working with ChatGPT, I've gone through more than 200 revisions at this point, but I built an app, and I'm not an app developer, I'm an educator. But I can take like this idea, and now I'm not like, oh, my iPhone, I'm using it as a video camera, for crying out loud. Like, it's a better video camera than my brand new MacBook Pro. It's like a video studio. It's an app for managing our school's traffic that I made. That's not what they were talking about in 2007. They were talking about browsing the web, making a phone call, listening to music, and that was it. And now we're so far past that. It's about the apps and how we're using them. And it's not, there's an app for that. We had an explosion of that. But, we fundamentally, hopefully this analogy is making a lot of sense. We've come a long way since that first moment of, wow, an iPhone. So take all of that and try to imagine what that's like with AI, particularly with AI in education. We're right now like, whoa, there's this thing, and it's basically like the iPhone 1 is kind of where we're at now. In 16 years, we're going to look at how we use AI tools and be like, whoa, do you remember in 2023 when we're like ChatGPT and nothing else? The one I do want to point out in particular that I think is where we're starting to go is the idea of kind of the app store for these large language models, the LLMs. And Khan Academy is doing a really, really good job of this with an app called Khanmigo. So it's a $9 per month per student subscription, meant to be like a tutor, and they take ChatGPT 4 technology as the engine basically, and they add their app over it, or their app filters and processes and shapes the ChatGPT 4 model. And so if you just say the example I heard Sal Khan give on my friend John Spencer's podcast, which is great, Spencer Ideas, great podcast, you are able to chat with Khanmigo like a tutor, like a teacher, and Khanmigo is trained by teachers along with the Khan Academy to try and be neutral. And so the example he gives is Second Amendment, gun control, here's my strong opinion, don't you agree? And Khanmigo will be like, what makes you say that? In a way that if a student came to me with a strong opinion one way or the other, I would either strongly resonate with an opinion or strongly, I don't know, interrogate, but like question that opinion at a progressive independent school as well, right? Conmigo is just like, tell me more about that. What makes you say that? Why do you think people believe that? Why do you think people believe the opposite? In a really like neutral way. I think that idea of that, of like, Conmigo is going to work for teachers with lesson planning, with eventually working like with small groups. If you had 4 different computers set up with Conmigo, you'd be able to they could interact with it, and then Conmigo, the way Sal Khan describes it, could actually just be giving you like a heads-up display, like Group 2 is a little bit off task and asking about this. Group 3 is kind of stuck on a thesis statement. Group 4 like has a couple really good examples, and then you can go where you're needed. So it's almost in a lot of ways having the teaching assistant where you're the editor in chief. And so I think that's something really to keep an eye on if you're trying to dig into something. Conmigo would be an interesting place to start. And as we look at the bigger theme of this week, I'm going to bring it back into week 3, looking at summative assessment and how we give students feedback. I think Google Forms is a really powerful way, but it's a very like binary way. You get the question right or wrong, and that's it. If it's wrong, there's no feedback. Whereas Conmigo could be like, that's actually incorrect. How'd you get to that? Or let me teach you, or here's a resource. So I think Conmigo might be interactive, automatically graded quizzes. It's going to say times 10. It's like times 1,000. It's going to be way more powerful than Google Forms. But in the meantime, you do not have every one of your students using Conmigo for that $9 per student per month. That's not a thing yet. And so what do? Like, we try and automate as much as possible when it makes sense. And a self-grading quiz is a great example of that. That Google Fundamentals training for Google Certified Educator Level 1 is a really good, has lots of resources for that. So that's kind of the theme of this week. Check it out. Let me know your thoughts. I think you're going to have a good time in week 3. I think you're going to really like the Google Forms and just the idea of being able to give students feedback without them waiting for you. So that is all for week 3. And happy week 3, everybody.